Hey everybody, Agent Zion here from Artificery, and this is an Argent Saga video. And if you haven't heard of it, well, you have now, and you will know a good bit about the game by the time I'm done with the video. The purpose of this video is to give very broad overview concept look at Argent Saga and describe what I like about it, why I'm enamored with this game right now, why I think it's really, really solid. I'm going to tell you the high points of what I perceive to be its strongest mechanics, and I'm going to give a couple caveats at the end. I'm not pleased with absolutely everything, but I am pleased with quite a bit. So it's difficult to describe this game without comparing it to other games, but in the best way possible. The designers of this game clearly lifted a lot of concepts from other games, and that's not a bad thing. Nothing needs to be terribly original just for the sake of originality. From top to bottom, looks like I got that out of place there. Wrong one. But they pick the high notes of a lot of different games, and it comes together and it plays really, really well. So, what are you trying to do? You are trying to kill your opponent. You do that by destroying each one of their 5 towers and then hitting them once. And you do that with units, of which you could only have 5 at any given time. Right? You play out the units, and I'll get into the resource system here in a second. And on this unit card, you can see its cost in the upper left. This one is 2. You can see its power, which is both its defense and its attack. That big number at the top. You see its affiliation and color. This one's gray. It can go in any deck. And you can see that it is a unit because it says it's a unit, and it does something when it shows up. Right? So units have abilities, which makes sense. Um, Summoning Sickness applies. You normally can't exhaust or attack with a unit as it the same turn it comes into play. And like I said, you can only have 5 of them. Positioning matters in this game. Your opponent, they have their own board state right across from you. And there are units where, whoever's sitting right across from this guy can't attack. And that presumably can be expanded upon in any number of ways based on positioning and new cards and whatnot. I haven't looked at every single card in the set, so I don't want to say something exists when it doesn't. So just take my very specific example of a unit across from another unit not being able to attack and expand that out with your game design spidey sense, and you can see all the different ways where positioning can matter in this game. Right? How do you basically get the job done? You're going to attack. Opponent's either going to block or not based on some other things. And then you go, okay, I'm attacking your towers. You didn't block me. Let's see this one. You flip it up. Oh, this guy's got 1,000 attack. Your tower's got 1,000 health. Your tower's dead. Turn that thing around. All right. Once your tower dies, the person who controlled the tower that got destroyed gets the tower effect. And this is really, I wanted to get straight into this part right here because this is my favorite part about the whole game, and it's really, really awesome. Right? These tower effects are strategically important. They are a comeback mechanic for people who are getting their ass beat, for lack of a better term, and they are plannable. They are not a given because of the randomness, which I'll go into in just a second. But they let you plan for certain effects happening at some point to allow yourself a moment of recovery. Right? At the start of the game, you have 5 towers, one of each color, of which there are 5. You can see they are split between 1,000 and 1,500 point values. So some of them are easier to blow up than others, and they all have different effects based, on this game's color pie, what each color is trying to do, how they're represented in the game world. Each one of these has its own effect that allow you to recover from losing a tower in one way or another. So this one will give you a unit. This one lets you look into your opponent's hand and ditch a card. This one lets you draw a couple cards. This one lets you get a big tempo swing and bounce a couple units back. This one just lets you destroy a unit. Right? These are shuffled. You will show them all to your opponent at the start of the game. So I don't think they have any towers other than these currently in the game. This is a very new game. But clearly they can make more. And so you'll show all of these towers and their associated effects to your opponent at the start of the game, shuffle these bad boys up, and then they go face down in your tower row. And so when your opponent attacks, they may not know what effect they could trigger, or if they are even going to destroy a tower at all. So if you're attacking with this 1,000 unit, even if your opponent has no blockers, not guaranteed to blow up a tower. And even when it does blow up a tower, it might be the red one. So great, you got a tempo advantage by having a unit when your opponent doesn't. Well, it just died. You got a good effect out of it. Unit killed a tower, pretty solid. Unit died for its trouble though. That mechanic is very very cool. I love it to pieces. All right, so you eventually get to the point where you've blown up all your opponent's towers. They're all turned upside down. They are destroyed. All the effects have been processed. Now, all you need to do is just attack opponent once with any size unit. So the towers, the unit limit, the no specific health value of a player themselves, unless you want to make it a function of the combined health of all the towers. It plays into a very fluid game where things happen. You're not taking serious notes. The board state is pretty easy to see at a glance where people stand. There's not a whole lot of token tracking, um, aside from a few things that I'll get into here in a minute. It's clean. The gameplay is clean. It's not messy, and it has an upper bound on how complicated it actually can be. Which isn't to say that it's a simple game. A lot of these units have a ton of effects, and they are game-changing effects. So when you only have 5 units and your deck is full of them, and you have spells and all this stuff, everything's carrying more complexity weight concentrated in a smaller space. And it's very, very cool stuff. I'm not going to go through every unit, but you have your mainstays. Unit comes in, it draws a card. Unit comes in, it blows up another unit. Unit comes in, uh, discard a card from your opponent, things like that. There's tribal synergies with unit types. All of the basics of what you expect from a game are there already, and it's ready to go. Right? One of the things that it's lifted from games such as Hearthstone is the standard mana development. Right? You will get one shard out of your shard deck every round it comes into play. And so you have a very predictable, exceedingly reliable way to play the cards in your deck. Every card in your deck actually does something. There's nothing that's there that's um, just to line up everything else you're trying to do, like Magic the Gathering, which of course is the big bugbear in the room. It solves that issue quite handily. And there are special shards already as your resource generator, where this shard it produces resources just like any other, but it also does other things, and that adds to the complexity, it adds to your options, and that's just good. It's good that it's there already, and I like that to a certain extent. I am not a huge fan of rarity levels for resource development in a game like this. That being said, there is a 3 copy maximum for any inclusion in your deck for the vast majority of cards. So for this special shard, you can only have 3 of them. You only need 3 of them. And really, it's only super good and amazing if you can meet its color requirements. I'll get into that spirit line here in a second, but you can see that there is a requirement and a downside if you try to run this card without meeting that requirement. And your shard deck is only 10 cards anyway, 10 card minimum, 10 card maximum. So the number of these that you're cramming in there, I flipped through some of the decks on its database, the Gen Con winning stuff. Didn't see one where they had out of color shards. So the impact currently is pretty minimal there. Hopefully it stays that way. That's one of my nitpicks. All right, your deck, 40 card minimum, 60 card maximum, 3 cards or 3 copies of any given card, with the exception of legendary cards, which you can see because they are called legendary right in their descriptor. And I'm flipping through. I hope there's one in this deck. I haven't played with every single intro deck yet. I haven't read every single card. I'm assuming there's at least one legendary card in there, and I would be wrong, or I overlooked it. Just know that they do say legendary. You can only have one of them in the deck, and those are big chase rares. And the fact that you don't need 3 because you can't play 3 in a deck is nice there. It relieves a little bit of the playset sickness that I tend to get, where I need the maximum copies of every single card. Right? You build your deck currently with a maximum of 2 colors. First color being what you get off of your champion. You will select the champion. There's a bunch of different champions. Every color has multiple champions it can choose from, and they have ongoing effects, some of which add tokens that you can cash in for an effect like this this blue dude right here. If you play water creatures, he gets tokens. If you remove 3 tokens, you get to draw a couple cards and discard a card. Right? Good stuff. Always gives you something to do. Specifically for Destiny players, I think this is one of the really big draws that we have to Destiny is identification with character. This isn't a Star Wars license, so I do like it a little less than Destiny in that regard. But all of these characters do something very different, and they are flavorful. From what I've seen, like this champion here, definitely feels like an immoral conjure. She's making golems all over the place. She's getting into fights, blowing things up, gets rewarded for that to continue to go in and do fights. This guy, you're paying one, you're burning your own hand to go find some sweet dragons that are in your deck. He's summoning things. This dude is like the Jace equivalent. He wants to play water creatures and then use his experience in casting those creatures out on the field to go draw more cards. And it's good. It's really, really cool. The character identification is solid. One of the high points of the game. You get your second color if you want to branch out into a second color, because you also get to choose a spirit. And a spirit's like a little lesser thing. And this one's a cat, and this one's a water frog of some sort. I don't really understand that, but hey, it is what it is. And this also gives you ongoing effects. One big effect, by turning it face down, you get a big deal once per game. And then in the upper left-hand corner of that card, you can see a number, where what that means is that you get the ability to include 8 copies of purple cards in your deck. Right? That is not up to, that is 8. If you're running this purple spirit with this red dragon dude, you are putting 8 copies of purple cards, or 8 purple cards. You could have singletons, or 3, 3, and 2, or however you want to divide that up. Or you're putting 0 purple cards in. It's all or nothing. You don't get partial credit. And that allows you to branch out and have a minor splash color, which is pretty cool. I do like that these shards play off of the spirit, which is going to be the minor cards in your deck, or lesser in number, we'll say, and not the champion, which is what the majority of the decks. So I did pick the wrong deck to kind of demonstrate this with because all these were purple, but bear with me. Most of these cards would be red with the red champion, but if I had the purple special shard, I get full effect off of that shard. So it helps bolster what I'm trying to do with purple because everything does play into theme and color pie, which is the third thing I really like about this game. It does have a very well-defined color pie and thing that each color is trying to do and their methodology about winning the game. And the easiest way to see that is to look at the towers and all of those tower effects. Another awesome thing, all of these color interactions do play off of each other. There are cards that give you effects for having a destroyed purple tower in the game. And if there's a destroyed purple tower in the game, go do this awesome thing for blowing up a purple tower. The purple dude is mad about it. So he's going to come out and he's going to be a rage monster and start hitting people harder or discarding extra cards or what have you. And forcing yourself and your opponent to include one of each lets those effects take effect. You can't just say, well, I'm going to just stack up with blue towers and my opponent doesn't have anything that plays off of blue towers. Fuck them. You have to have one of each. That increases, a little bit of randomness, a little bit of tactical value in determining, do I want to destroy a tower I've revealed for a guaranteed effect that I can plan around and work my way through and maintain my advantage for destroying a tower, or do I want to take maybe my 33% shot of destroying the purple tower to make my golem guy a rage monster? What are my odds? What are my chances? What's the payoff? Can I make him a rage monster and deal with the effect of destroying a purple tower? These are really cool decisions, and it's spectacular. Another thing lifted from Games Pass is the queue. It's first in, last out. Player effects. If it's your turn, all of your triggered abilities enter the queue all at once, and then your opponents do. If you've played a card game before, this is not a totally unfamiliar concept, and it doesn't seem to have too much weirdness like the Destiny queue sometimes can. It plays just fine. Haven't run into any issues thus far. So, really, really cool stuff. Combat itself, you're attacking with one unit at a time. So this is very tactical. It's very, very cool. You can either attack towers. Once you're blowed up all the towers, you're basically attacking opponent with the same action, or you're attacking an exhausted unit. So you can start clearing out the board, start stabilizing by attacking units that are exhausted. You normally cannot attack units that are ready. And in addition to that, you normally cannot block a unit just because he's chilling. And you have to have a special guardian ability. Easiest to find the tokens. Where are the tokens? Where'd they go? Oh, they're over here. So it's easiest to pull one of these guys up and look at them. Guardians can block, but regular units cannot. Guardians jump in front of enemies and keep your towers safe, or they keep a more important unit safe. And that can be planned around. That's not to say that Guardians can't attack as well, but it's tactical combat. And since you're only attacking with one unit at a time, you can bait your opponent into a trap by, okay, cool, yeah, I'm not going to block that guy. He goes and he puts 1,000 points on this tower. Okay, you're going to attack with your second guy now. Well, now I'm going to play an effect that gives a unit guardian, and I'm going to block. and I killed your dude. My dude's gonna live. You wasted the attack on the other guy because the damage on the tower is going to be wiped away clean at the end of the round, and it's really cool that it works like that. And it's kind of difficult to describe what I mean, but when you look at things like Hearthstone or things like Magic, and you're saying, okay, well, I'm going to attack with absolutely everybody. Here's where everybody's going. You figure it out now. This really is one of the things that I think, as a primarily Destiny player, which is good for you jumping into this game. Because people are only attacking with one unit at a time, there is a more back and forth because everything that they're attacking, when it comes to towers or units themselves, tons and tons of units have battle or death triggers. Um, you're always engaged with your opponent in you're always, if not making actual decisions, you're always gaining something to do, with few exceptions from the games that I've played with the intro decks. Right, certain effects are, you know, picking up counters for your champion or for your spirit based on what your opponent is doing on their turn, because you could kill a unit in battle on their turn, and then I'm taking up these counters and stuff. There are certain cards that allow you to remove a bunch of counters from your champion to play the card for free, and there are instants, so you can be playing spells on your opponent's turn, and all of these play into each other and make for a very engaging game. Um, a big turn on for people who play Destiny is the you go, I go, you go, I go. That doesn't exist in this game because you do take your entire turn and then pass the turn over to the next player. But I have yet to run into a situation where I'm mentally checked out because it's my opponent's turn and I'll just come back to the board in a minute and figure out everything that happened and then pick up the pieces from there. I'm engaged on my opponent's turn. I'm doing things on my opponent's turn for the most part. It's good. Um, the complexity level with the base set is pretty solid. It's not overly complex. It's not anything that people can't pick up and go with, especially if you've had previous card game experience. Um, but it's not dead simple either. I'm not very, very bored. I would not want to go back and play like Awakenings Destiny right now. It would be very boring, I believe. I don't really have a huge draw to go play core set Magic because of how boring it is. This is really a sweet spot at the moment for complexity versus ease of understanding. So that's great. Um, yeah, that's the game. It plays smooth. It plays relatively swiftly once you kind of get into the swing of things. And yeah, that's what I have to say about it. It's really, really cool. I'm enjoying every single game I'm playing with it. I didn't go into augments. Let me do that. Augments, spell or enchantments, supports, however you want to term it. These are just other ongoing effects, and you don't have just one. You can have a grip of them, and they all do different things. And then you can also get augments for units, which play directly on the units, and they give them buffs or other effects and things of that nature. Right? Like I said, almost everything you would expect a card game in 2019 to have, this has. And I really, really like the champion identity, the spirit identity, how those play into deck building, how those play into your mana base and your shard base. Um, I love, love, love that you are not getting locked out of a game entirely because you can't get the resources to pay for your stuff. I'm seeing a lot of effects, especially in blue, that later in the game, uh, you don't need all of this mana. So let's put some of this back in the shard deck to have another ongoing ability or a one-time effect. Uh, that messes with opponent, and then next turn you get another mana back. So it's very Hearthstone-like. Very, very good. I like it a lot. I'm really, really excited about this game. If I haven't said it enough. So all of that goodness is running right up to me into a wall of a couple of different things. Right, first of which, the intro decks, while very, very good, they are tournament legal, they're solid. Every one that I've played so far has been fun and interesting. The most part, you get 3 of every card in the intro deck. So you have a playset of whatever cards are contained within each color's intro deck. And those cards are not duplicated in the first set of boosters. That's a very smart decision. It's a very good for the player-based decision. The problem is there is one card in every single intro deck of which you only get 1 copy. It is not a legendary. To have a playset, you must have 3 copies. I do not like that. Currently, from what I've gathered, it's only the green one that's been making competitive waves. I still don't like it. Not at all. Having to buy multiple copies of a starter product to get a playset is always going to rub me the wrong way. Especially 3 copies, a bit much. Hopefully that trend does not continue. I see why they did it, obviously for business and financial decisions. Not a fan. Please don't. Please stop. Another thing I don't like is the rarity system within the packs. Each pack has 10 cards. I don't know the exact breakdown of each rarity within each pack, but what I can say is that there are 3 levels of rarity in a random booster pack, and a 4th super valuable secret rarity type thing. I got that mixed up. All right. There are 4 normal levels of rarity plus a secret rarity. Secret rarity is just the highest level of rarity, but now it's a foil, so they've got something there for collectors, and that's fine. I don't really have an issue with that. I do have an issue with 4 levels of rarity in a 10-card booster pack. You are not guaranteed a ton of the highest rarity when buying a booster pack or booster box. And I haven't run the math, I haven't done the numbers on it, but instinctively, I'm not a fan. Instinctively, I'm very cautious about card costs with that higher rarity on a game where you might need 3 copies of it to be competitive. I looked at the booster box contents and not guaranteed a super high number of that highest rarity in each box. It's only 2, I believe. If I'm wrong, then someone can yell at me. But that's really, really rough. I'm actually just going to look that up right now because I don't want to misspeak and mischaracterize anything. But it's it's concentrating a lot of power into a few cards, and that has the potential, especially with a new game, to get out of control very, very swiftly with competitive play. All right, so with a box of 24 booster packs, you will get 2 of the highest rarity cards. You will get 7 of the next rung down, 15 of the rung down from there, and you basically get a playset of all the commons. Don't like it. That does not seem very generous. The boxes are cheaper than Destiny boxes. Looks like you can get at retail. Looks like you can get a box for $65. But I need to run the numbers and see exactly where that comes out for statistics for bare minimum to get a play set, but that's not playing very well with me specifically. So I think even the most diehard of players is going to be hitting up that singles market or doing a lot of trading. One thing that is a mixed bag for me is if you are opening boosters, you could get these. Basically, it's Marlboro miles, but for Argent Saga, you get what they call shard points. And those shard points come in various denominations, and you can trade them in for a prize wall. And presumably, of course, you could trade them to other players if you trust them that the prize points have not been redeemed as of yet. So you go, you register the card, you trade it in, and you get things like playmats or T-shirts, or they have Moscow Mule cups, which I thought was kind of amusing. That's what really brought my mind to Marlboro Miles, or Camel Cash. Uh, you have promos, full art cards. You have metal towers. I think are actually really cool. They would do that. That's a step above acrylic, but pretty sweet. Um, and those are real, tangible, physical goods, and you can trade these points out to other people because they want to bling out their favorite deck. They don't necessarily want this one card that you want, but you don't have any cards that they want. It's kind of like an in between cash and card trade system there. So that's okay. I don't like that as of right now, and if this is misspeaking, then I'm sorry, but there are cards that you can only get by trading in redemption. So if that trend continues, and if that ever becomes a competitive necessity, I would be very, very against this system. Not a fan of locking uh, cards that you have to buy boxes of booster packs to get redemption points and trade them in to get the cards that you need, rather than simply being able to just open them in packs for limited play, or just because you can afford one or two boxes and then pop them open. So, in summary, my downsides for the game are a couple of the monetary decisions and how that would impact players trying to acquire cards. That's pretty much the sum total of my negative. My very nitpicky thing, I just don't like it, is these damn Yu-Gi-Oh numbers on the top of these cards. Like this knight, he's not that cool looking. He is not 2,000 of anything except calories per day. Okay, that I get that you want some granularity. You don't want it. You don't want him to be two. You don't need him to be two. That's too low. He's better than two. That dude's like not. He's not an Uggo. Okay, I bang him. But he's not 2,000 either. You could have dropped two of those zeros off. Could have made it a good solid 20. Because everything is in denominations of 500. You could have dropped some zeros. Everything would have been fine. That's my nitpick. But I like it. Hit me up. I want to play more of this. I want to get deeper into the game. I'm still sticking with intro decks right now. Just because that's how I use my comfort level to get acquainted with something. Very cool. Very, very, very cool. So thank you for watching. Thank you for paying attention to this for so long. Thank you to Jacqueline specifically for making this TTS mod. If we do decide to run an online league, we will not be using TTS. The company has asked us to use Untap, and we will honor that request. But this TTS mod is great for teaching people. It's great for playing with, and it looks pretty cool. So take it easy, everybody. I hope to play this game with you. And just let me know if you want an intro deck game, and I will be more than happy to oblige.